Hello everyone and welcome back to my channel. My name is Alison, the online piano and the online violin tutor. So first of all, I just want to start off by saying Merry Christmas to you all, for those of you who are celebrating Christmas, wherever you are in the world, whatever time it is for you. I hope you're all having a lovely day. So as tradition dictates, I always like to come on Christmas Day and just make a quick little video. And I know a lot of you will have gotten a brand new violin for Christmas, maybe something like this, and it's come like this. And I want to take you through exactly how you're going to set up this violin out of the case. So I'm going to zoom you in a little bit closer and we're going to go through a few steps. But for those of you that have got a brand new violin on Christmas Day and you've opened it up and it looks something like this, it doesn't even have the bridge on, and you literally have no idea what to do, I'm going to take you through that. So this is part one. This is video part one. If you want to know how to actually get going and start playing, then head over to part two after you've watched this. Part two is also going to be available today as well. So this is part one on how to set up your violin literally out of the case, unwrap it, unzip it, put the bridge on, all that kind of thing, tune it up, etc, etc. Part two is going to be, I'm just going to help you get off and going into playing it, and the next steps kind of after that, just so that you're not kind of going around on YouTube and all over the internet, videos here, videos there, scattergunning about, not really sort of knowing what you're doing. So I'm going to put you on the right track for that. So this is part one. Part two will be linked underneath. Let's just get straight on with it. Okay, so you've got your violin in front of you, you've opened up the case and you're presented with something like this. First thing you do is just remove this, just put that to the side for 1 second. Now you'll see there's no bridge on here. I'm going to show you how to put the bridge on, and you'll also see there's a bit of a mess going on here. Now that's not to say that your bow will arrive like this. This has just been a violin that's been sitting up in my cold loft for a little while, but for those of you that do get something like this on shipping, you know, I'm just going to show you that it's nothing to worry about. It's not the end of the world, but I'm just going to show you how you can just look after this. So we'll just get onto that in just a second. So I'm just going to very quickly go through this. So you'll get something like this. I mean, it's not going to be anywhere near in tune, is it? So it's going to look like this. The first thing you need to do is locate these two little kind of these little indentations in the F hole there. Now what you want to do is be putting the bridge in the middle of those two F holes there. Now the first thing you'll notice is that the bridge is slanted, so you've got a higher end on the left and a lower end on the right. So what you want to be doing is, when you're looking at your violin, you want the lower end to be on the right hand side, so you do not want it to be the other way round. So this string here, which is the E string, so you've got the G string, D string, A string and E string, this will all be covered in part two. So not that way, you want the highest to be on the left hand side. So very easily and very simply, all you're going to do is just stabilize the violin a little bit, pop the bridge underneath, and just pop it underneath like that. So I can see it's a little too far forward, so all I'm going to do is just kind of scoot it back a little bit. There should be some grooves on the bridge, so we're going to do that, and I'm just going to keep positioning it until it's more or less in line with those two there. If you find the strings a little bit too tight, then just loosen the strings up here a little bit. Don't loosen them too much, because you do want a little bit of tension. So you don't want to undo the strings completely so they're all literally hanging off, because then they'll start to unwind up here in the peg box. But just enough so that you can sort of put the bridge in and sort of put it up a little bit. So I think that's probably about right. You'll see there's a little tube on the E string, the string on the right. Now that little tube needs to be right underneath the bridge, and what that's going to do is just protect it. So just make sure the little tubing, it might have flown up somewhere, make sure that's sitting underneath the bridge, so it's going to protect it. And then just have a look around to make sure that the bridge is straight, and make sure that it's upright and it's not wonky. And then the next thing you can do is get on to tuning the strings. So we'll get onto that in just a second. the next thing you want to do is just have a look at the bow. Now this just looks to be like a bit of a mess, doesn't it? So all I'm going to do is these bits that are just hanging off here, I'm just going to very gently just pull them off at the end here. Just being very careful to do that. Okay, so once you've kind of cleaned up the bow and you've taken off any of those little bits, if there are, as I said, there shouldn't be. This one's just been sitting in my loft, my attic, in all sorts of temperatures. So you know the bow's not really being looked after. This is just a cheap violin anyway, so I wouldn't expect anything less. But I've chosen this as it might be more representative, possibly, of the violin that you guys might have been getting for Christmas. So once you've got your bow, you'll notice all the hairs are quite loose. Try and refrain from touching these hairs. You don't want to be putting any kind of dirt, grease, oils from your hands onto the hair. The reason being is that we're going to be rosining the bow. So in the end of your case, there's a little compartment in the end of your case. You should have some rosin in there. What you want to do is grab your rosin and we're going to put some rosin onto the bow. Before we do that though, we're going to tighten the bow. So with a little screw at the end, begin to tighten the bow. Now, depend on the quality of your bow will depend on what this will look like. This isn't a particularly great quality bow, but what you want to be looking at is a nice sort of bend in the middle. So you want the hair to be straight and a bend in the middle. Now there isn't so much of a bend in the middle of this bow because, as I said, it's not really a great quality bow, but it doesn't matter too much. Just make sure that it's not hugely over tightened. You don't want a bow that's over tightened. You just want the hair to be flexible enough. And that really doesn't actually have to be that much. I know a lot of people, you know, really tighten their bow because they think it has to be tight, but that's not true at all. As soon as you see the top part of the wood bowing upwards, you've gone too far. So just slacken it off a little bit. So if you've got more of a student quality or more of a budget sort of violin, then you'll just want to make sure and aim that the wood is pretty much straight. If you've got a much better quality violin, you know, you spent a little bit more money on it, then your wood, the bend in the wood should be, it should be concave. So it should be like that. So we don't ever want it to be like that. We want it to either be like that or completely straight across. So this is just a student quality violin, just a budget violin, and the bow here is just pretty much straight across, and that's tight enough. When I do touch it, it's okay just to tap it a little bit, but if I do touch it, it feels fine. So what you're going to want to do now is apply rosin to the bow. So if you start to play the violin, it feels like the bow is slipping around. That's because you need to put rosin on the bow. So you're getting very little sound. It's more like a hollow kind of wispy sound. So that's because you need to apply rosin. So grab the rosin out of the end of your case and you need to begin applying it. So all you're going to do is get your rosin and you're just going to start rubbing up and down the bow just like this. You want to aim for the bow to be looking quite snow white. So to be perfectly honest with you, with the budget quality violins, the synthetic hairs that you get, they're not great. So I get this question all the time. People will say, oh, I've rosined my violin and I'm still not getting any sound out of the violin. Now that will purely be because you just haven't rosined enough. So because these are not very good quality violins, it's probably going to take you a good 10 minutes to put some rosin on the bow, honestly. So I'm not going to do it fully with this. I'm just going to use another bow just for the purpose of this video, but you'll feel that it's just, you know, you're putting rosin on the bow and it doesn't really feel like there's anything going on there. It's just kind of slipping off and it's going to be quite annoying, but just promise you, just keep applying rosin. Apply it in little chunks like this. It kind of helps, and just keep going up and down. If you think you've put enough on, go back and try it. No, that's clearly not enough, and then I need to apply some more. So just keep applying rosin until you sort of see like a white, snowy white, dusty build-up, and it works on the violin, and then you'll be able to get a nice biting sound. If you're still not getting that, apply more rosin. Try it again. If you're still not getting a sound, just apply more rosin. You get the idea. So these will take a little bit to build up, so just keep going until you get a sound. So now we just need to tune this violin. So what I'm going to do is link to a video directly underneath this video that is going to tell you how to tune this violin properly. I was going to do it in this video, but I just think it really does deserve a separate video all on its own, and I can't really sort of condense it down without kind of messing you guys around as well, and really just sort of without sort of doing it particularly very well. So I'm going to link to the video that you need to go and watch, which is going to show you exactly how to tune this violin. And it's really important that you do go and watch that video and not just try and attempt to kind of tune it yourself, because you're going to end up in all sorts of troubles. You're going to end up probably just breaking strings, yanking the pegs too much. There is a skill to it. It is, you know, there is a bit of finesse to it. It isn't just about just, you know, getting the sound of a string and just sort of yanking the pegs up and just hoping for the best. So head to that video underneath. So once we've tuned the violin, the next step is to actually play the violin, and this is where we are going to switch over to part 2 of the video, which will be linked underneath, and that is going to tell you how to hold the violin, how to hold the bow, where to play, and just to generally get yourself started so that you know what your next step is. So make sure you've set up your violin properly, go and make sure that you've tuned the violin, and I will see you over in part 2.